one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
Welcome to Discover Crypto, a cataclysmic day. As we go to all-time highs overnight, the S&P 500 opening at all-time highs, a collapse up continuing in gold, but one major altcoin seems like it might be getting ready to collapse down the list of the top 10, folks. We're going to take a look at what the hell is going on in crypto. There's a lot of things shaking and moving in the biggest crypto projects of the, really $200 billion projects fighting for position at the top 3 in crypto. This is where legends are made. Welcome to the show, one and all. And also, we're going to have to be talking about a potential delay, something that might actually set back XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs, and Cardano, among many other ETF applications that might be running into delays. But we got so much to cover, and a very, very special guest joining us on the show, Piano Matty B. How are you doing, my man? It's good to see you.
Holy smokes. It's been a while, but yeah, I'm happy to be here. Still stuck up here in Canada, hoping one day maybe I can make it to the States. Who knows?
Yeah.
How about that all-time high yesterday?
It's been an interesting time. We're going to all-time highs. It felt like many times this week. Sentiment still in the gutter, right? I mean, where fear and greed is sitting is just absolutely laughable right now. And really, we got to get into everything. Make sure to follow myself and Piano Matty B. You got to follow Matty B, okay? He is one of the OGs in the space. And, this is better. Matty B, he is an OG. And I think I got to spell it Piano Matty B. I thought it would come up automatically because I'm always hitting you up. Let's see here. There he is. So Piano Matty B, at Piano Matty B on Twitter. He's a great fella. There is a lot of newer to crypto people, I feel like, out here watching this pullback, Matty. It's like, it was substantial, right? I mean, we lost like 3.5% in the course of maybe an hour. But when you're really backed up here, I mean, this has been a ride to the moon, right? Over the past few days / weeks here. What I thought was going to happen was we would have a little bit more gas in the tank to get near 128 and then come back down to test the I'm kind of watching this center point of the W pattern here, right? For kind of a pump up to the new high, come back down, kill everyone off your exchanges that are using leverage, and then continue on up, is my general thought. One part, the overall movement's been right so far, but the height at which we were looking to accomplish out of the move didn't really hit. We hit 126.5 or something like that, 126.2. What is your general thoughts? You're great with long-term TA, stepping back, really looking at the forest of the trees when it comes to Bitcoin. The morning crash got a little bit of people afraid, right? They're a little bit afraid. What are you seeing on the charts for where we are right now?
Well, for anyone who is relatively new, and I've always thought that the black swan of this bull run is that we'd be being at the top of the market, all-time highs, and zero sentiment, right? Like people, like normies could care less. So if you are new to it, congratulations. The rest of your life's in front of you right now. But this 3% pullback, man, is nothing.
I know. Painful in terms of leverage traders, right? There was a good amount of leverage traders that were liquidated this morning. And actually, this is a post that happened before the real liquidation start. We were up to $160 million worth of crypto longs liquidated. And it did climb pretty substantially, actually. Let's go to I got to add a scene for you, Matty B. I have to add a scene for you here. So I'm going to actually make this a little bit wider so we can see The washout was immense, hundreds of millions. I wonder, we probably breached $1 billion in liquidations on this latest pullback. They're still fighting here. On the longer term, though, when I'm on the show with you and looking at your charts, I always love looking at the longer term. There is still, some scary magnets down here. There's some scary magnets at 108 too. Oh, let me ask you this, Maddie. At what point in a Bitcoin sell-off / washout would you be like, okay, maybe we're starting to crescendo into bear market territory? What is that kind of linchpin in your mind?
Well, there is I'll pull up a chart here. I'll pull up the weekly. It's kind of best to do it on the weekly. There is a time-tested true scenario to kind of carry us into the winter. And you can back test this with any top. It's essentially, we have a 30% dip from like the all-time high. We don't know it's the all-time high, but it is the all-time high. So just to put that into reference, we'll throw out this wick. Let's say we did have a 30% drop from 126 down to 88K. So, I mean, you got to imagine 110, everyone is saying it's over. 105, it's over. 100, it's way over. 95, oh my God, see in 4 years. Breaking 90, 88, but that is a 30% drop. And just like anyone else who's been here long enough, 30%, that was all day long last bull run. We had 6 30%ers, and I think one of them was a 50%er. So this 3%, it's a dump for ants basically. But here's where you have to run this scenario. If and when we see a 30% dip, here's the crazy part, Drew. If we are in, let's say the cycle's augmented and we're basically in this really boring snail pace up, it's great to not have a 30% dump, but we won't get that volatility dopamine that we've kind of born and bred. But if we just keep on going up, we may not see a 30% dump. But historically speaking, let's pretend everything is at status quo. We get a 30% dip. What you have to do is you have to run a fib from the top. Here, I'll get one here. Where's my fibs? Fib retracement.
Oh, the fib.
Pull the fib down to the 30%, where it was 88. Okay, so now here is where you will know the bear market is basically in. You get a classic dead cat bounce, right? We all, when we have the market dumps and then all of a sudden we rally and we get euphoric again, but that is the dead cat bounce. And a dead cat bounce, if it doesn't get over the 38.2% fib, because the whole universe is fibs, we just run on fibs. If we get capped here, we generally slide, and it's happened every bull market, will slide into the crypto winter. But
gotcha.
So it would look like this if we're going to draw it out. We're just boom all the way down here. 88. Oh my God, we're rallying. See, it's not the bottom. Everyone becomes euphoric. We get denied here, and then essentially we go down into the crypto winter. That's assuming a lot of things. Well, for the biggest one that we will see like another crypto winter with this massive, 70% pullback. What are your thoughts on the 4-year cycle now?
Yeah, I mean, the 4-year cycle has been something that I think it's still mathematically very much so in play. Like the 4-year cycle, the halving process, and then the cost to mine Bitcoin are pretty solid under limits. Like I feel, and I've said this many times, that Bitcoin is based on physics, right? It's based on cost. It's based on input of electricity and an actual network that exists not only in hardware but software. So when I compare what's happening with gold right now to Bitcoin, these are some new they're not necessarily new mechanics to markets that we've seen of the past. We have a stagflationary event where essentially people are out of money. They're leveraged to the gills on credit to stay afloat. Our dollar has lost 10% of its value over the course of a very, very short amount of time, right? So with your dollar losing value plus inflation, actually, on a lot of goods, people are looking at 2 years ago to now have increased by 50%, sometimes 100%. And you're losing buying power all the same. It sets up basically a 1979, 1980s type transition into economic hell. And it looks a lot like where we're at right now, Maddie. So, this current time frame, I highlighted this zone on gold, kind of a consolidation above $3,000. And this candle represents an all-out flight from fiat currencies. This tells me Wall Street, this tells me government level entities, the average person is feeling it, that their buying power is being rotted. And we're seeing a flight to gold as a hedge against monetary cataclysm, essentially, which is stagflation, which is no growth, and inflation getting out of control, right? So where we are right now, it feels like, oh my God, you're looking at this and this is blow off top. But the last time we saw this same macroeconomic trigger basically going off was 1979 into the 80s, right? And gold rallied and honestly, the overlay of this, the fractal, is impeccable.
Right.
These are weekly candles on gold in 1979 leading into the 80s. And this continued for 120% move before going into a terrifying lull that basically lasted, from this low 1982 to 2004, right? There's a massive, massive lull in gold as governments pushed people back into fiat currencies, reinstilled trust in them, treasuries, you name it. So with this move, I think that now that gold's a $27 trillion market cap, it's harder to move, but I could see us accomplishing a 60% move on gold from here, from that moment of consolidation, which would essentially bring it up to about $5,500, right? I do think that we're in for a...
Well, it looks like we just lost Drew. It's going back and forth. Both of his channels are now thinking. Now, if I'm going to pick up where he's leaving off here, I would say that maybe gold is a leading indicator as to where Bitcoin is going. And most people have heard this, that gold runs and then Bitcoin lags behind. What is it, 100 days? So we could see that. We're all hoping we do. But when you see this, you see the price here at 121. Let's see what happens if I go like this. Okay, yeah. So this is the 4-hour chart. And what you're seeing here is the fibs, because like I say, everything is fibs. We only go bounce from Fibonacci to Fibonacci. And so this 23.6% fib, our first little pullback here, we almost didn't hit it. And to me, I like to crash through. There he is. He's back.
Hey, I'm back. Wait, keep going. Because I want your counterpoint on this, Maddie. Like, what I just laid out is basically a melt up, okay? And I don't know, maybe I got sniped by powers that be that didn't want me kind of sharing what's, potential here, but it's a collapse up, and we're looking at gold and Bitcoin being based in physics, nation state interest in both. What say you with these new kind of mechanics? That's what I want to know, because you have a great take, a very base take on Bitcoin, particularly. How could Bitcoin react in a situation?
Well, it's the classic crack up boom. The past 3 years, almost every legacy analyst has been talking about the crack up boom. And I can't see it not happening, because when you put into a bunch of weird factors, like 3 years ago, we were having zero conversations about AI. It was basically, we would talk about it in Terminator or something. The movie Terminator and AI was the closest we kind of got to this reality. Now we're so deep in it. So when you think about GDP and, the economy, what's going to happen when essentially 80% of the people don't have any jobs? What growth are we going to see? It's going to be a real painful transition. I think there is sunshine on the other side. How we get there, I don't know. It could be longer than we think, or it could happen overnight. Cause like what happens in a normal running business? You know, you may think you're important, and you may think you add value to the company or corporation you're working for, but as soon as they can AI you into oblivion, click, it's just going to be AI, and you're never coming back. There's no job for anyone. Even like, you know, guys like us, you know, content creators. I find myself sometimes watching a video that I know is AI. You know, they're just kind of doing a brief synopsis of other people's stuff, you know, and they'll just kind of do a conclusion and a run up. And I'm like, I'm watching it because information's information. At the end of the day, I like to see interesting personalities, but I tend to go to YouTube for information rather than personalities. So if the personalities go away and all I'm left with is the AI mathematical information, what I'm actually looking for, I'll probably stick on it. So as important as we may think we are as content creators, we'll be replaced pretty fast, and it's already happening.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I saw the, you know, the Jake Paul AI. I saw all these police AI videos. And really it's like, I can't trust. Yeah, I mean, I can't trust anything that's going on right now in the media. You know, the videos, they can create quite a stir, as we saw with, you know, the Summer of Love, what they call the riots, all those things. So, you know, it just makes you really, really wonder. Now we do have, let me pull you to a smaller screen so I can go through these stories with you here, man, because we got a government shutdown. We got a lot of stories, and honestly, a lot of ground to cover here on the show today. So, and then also give me a signal in the chat that the stream is still coming over well. I'm having some really weird technical intrusions. Maybe I was saying some things that you know, the powers that be didn't like. I mean, I feel it right now. So I'm messaging let's see, I'm messaging Aaron. All right, so let's get into the stories. Let's see here. So we have a shutdown. We have a government shutdown going on here. Let's see. I add this to stage and boom. Perfect. Maybe it's not going to work. See here. Maddie, are you still there?
Yeah. You know, a lot.
Okay,
What most people don't know about shows like this is that you get used to watching, say, a show like Tucker Carlson or so, where there's a makeup and there's a camera guy, there's a tech guy, there's a sound guy. But you know, the channels like ours, we're old school. If something goes wrong, we are the sound,
right?
We are the lights, we are the camera,
right?
We are everything, right?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of crazy right now. It's like being hijacked. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I can hear everything that's going on, but you know what? Maybe what I'm talking about is actually, Aaron, are you there? All right, I need you to get into the stream in case it craps on me. It's like doing some crazy stuff. You got to get in there, man. I'll see you in a sec.
You want me to finish this 4-hour chart?
Oh, here we go. God, it just started working. Okay. Super crazy. Jeez Louise. You know, Matty B, what I just laid out in this gold collapse up, I really think that, you know, Bitcoin, as you mentioned, it's having more aggravating kind of slow walks up into the right, with the institutional interest and the government interest and all this stuff. It's just bigger bags. It makes me feel like gold is going to keep running, but then Bitcoin, even if it underperforms, can land in the, you know, $20 trillion market cap or $1 million per Bitcoin pretty freaking quickly. You know, this is kind of in my mind where maybe we're at the point, there is no solving the national debt that stops the entire Ponzi scheme. They're pushing, there you are. They're pushing retirements out to mid 70s in some countries, right? So the monetary collapse is real. You know, is it possible that we just kind of follow that historical pattern and go to $1 million and then a decade of sideways action? Oh, and I think Aaron might be kicking him out.
Well, it's quite an amazing time to be living through, because essentially we're going through a monetary change, which would really generation. We saw a soft change in 1971, and it had its ups and downs, but it wasn't really. This is basically going from analog to digital. So we're moving from like a cash society, essentially, a fiat cash society, to a digital monetary system, for better or for worse. Now, I think it's going to be a more regulated, less privacy. Like at the end of the day, everything sometimes I always think, did I get psyoped by Bitcoin? Like, because every time I get passionate about anything I believe in, I think that maybe I got brainwashed. So sometimes in my darker moments when it comes to Bitcoin, I think, is this a massive psyop to get us used to transparent, immutable blockchain, where it's like, so we're always preaching about the benefits of a transparent, immutable blockchain, but at the same time, it's like it's the antithesis of what the dinosaur politicians say. Oh, it's for drug dealers and it's for money laundering. It's like, no, if you're a drug dealer and a money launderer, doing it on the Bitcoin blockchain is basically like going down Main Street on a parade and trying to commit crimes. Like everyone's going to see what you're doing, and it's in your history forever. So it's an exciting time to be alive. However, it has its trade-offs, right? So some of the trade-offs is I think that we're going to move into a society where there's little to no privacy. And by the time, a generation or two comes in, people will forget that we ever had cash. You don't got any sound though right now, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to think about what you're talking about here. My daughter has to navigate through AI and everything. And I just had to, I know we're having a little bit of weirdness, but on the technical side, but we had to cover this. But Maddie, XRP got flipped by BNB last night. BNB is sitting at extremely high levels, about $1,279 per token, up 27% on the week. They are pretty close in terms of market cap right now. XRP is at 172 bill and BNB is at 178 bill. I know Bitcoin's kind of leading the charge, and we kind of generally get where Bitcoin's going in the long term. These alts have had extreme blue balls under the top five. Like the tops are at all-time highs or just at them, right? Like Ethereum's at 4,500, 4,700 this morning. Bitcoin, 2,600 this morning, yada, yada. A lot of lost hopes and dreams here. But then we see insane things happening in terms of crypto, like this S&P global move. They're launching a 50 crypto index, right? We see Wall Street and there's a degree of interest there, but a lot of the price action is really yet to show for altcoins. And there's a lot of concerns about XRP losing this $3 move while Bitcoin's at all-time highs, while these bigs are at all-time highs. XRP is showing some serious pain here. So it's right in line with Solana on the pullback. Do you think that the usual sloshing of funds, essentially Bitcoin going all-time highs, top two going all-time highs, and then it moving downhill, you think that same market structure is at play for what we're currently going through with this market?
Well, it does feel different because when we have a pump in Bitcoin and the alts tend to follow, they don't follow like they did. Remember Kibbles and Bits, where there was big bulldog, and so the alts are like the little dog. Yep. But now, as Bitcoin pumps, you don't really see that little dog jumping all over the big dog. It kind of goes up a bit, and then when we get a crash like we did today, a 3% crash, right, the alts just dive down like they had never seen a bull market in their whole life. So it is behaving a little bit different. But I think with any cycle, you every day you got to just slam back the vitamin P and just be patient.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the question of the narrative of each coin matters. So Bitcoin, store of value. It's not that Bitcoin is constantly going up. As I said, the Dixie's going down hard, and we actually can sling through a lot of this. There's a lot of good stuff going on for crypto. The White House created executive orders that are planning to fine banks that discriminate against crypto companies, which is great. on a macro level. We also had Nvidia with the leading charge for Wall Street and the S&P this morning. There's obviously still interest in a $4.5 trillion company. Morgan Stanley is now suggesting a 4% allocation. That is a massive inflow potential for Bitcoin through this avenue as well. And then as they're looking at these options, BlackRock Bitcoin ETF is now the fastest growing ETF ever in the history of ETFs, right? So about to hit $100 billion in assets in 400 days. This type of movement's not going to be taken lightly by the large players. And then you have BNY Mellon, one of the oldest banks in America, now allowing tokenized deposits, blockchain payment. So it's definitely here to stay. The pressures on the macro are real. But I was talking about on the time frame, how long it's going to take to retire. Germany proposed raising the retirement age to 73 to prevent the pension system from collapsing.
It's already collapsing.
Yeah, I mean, it's already collapsing. Bitcoin is the escape from this. This is why this note matters so much, right? They're going to keep you in the rat wheel, the mouse wheel, whatever the hell you want to call it, for as long as they possibly can. US dollar on track for the worst year in 40 years, 4 decades, down 10% year to date. Massive amounts of liquidity injections coming, but not in the hands of airdrops to us in the form of liquidity to banks. This is the perception. Bitcoin going up into the moon, but that's really it. And I love this meme, Maddie, because it's so simple. You know what I mean? It is very, very simple. So the combination, what we need to be doing right now is pretty easy. It's sit back, watch the collapse of fiat currency come in, and Bitcoin absorbs that, being a store of value, being based in that cost to mine. I think the cost to mine Bitcoin in the USA is sitting somewhere around the $90,000, maybe $85,000 mark, but someone double check that live and let's see what it changed to. But yeah, I think we're pretty big. And that's interesting. You bring up $88,000 as a washout moment. You know what I mean? Like, it's also within my reason, even seeing more upside potential in Bitcoin, topping out at $150,000 is an absolute possibility for me in my mind, right? We're coming up to the end of the year. We're coming up to the end of what's usually the 4-year cycle bull year. Things are sitting at all-time highs. People are looking for more. I think there's going to be a season for it. But that move in my mind to 150, I feel like a half drop, a 50% drop in Bitcoin at the adoption that we have right now is more reasonable than that's the key. I think that we're just touching on the key of what's different about this 4-year cycle, Maddie, is that the downturn for Bitcoin, it was 80%, it was 75%. I doubt that. I'm saying that it's only going down by 50% from whatever the all-time high ends up being. What is your assessment of how that structure likely is to play out in your mind? Well, I've thought about this quite a bit.
I got caught up in this whole narrative that there's smarter money coming into the Bitcoin, but I was wrong. So people throw around BlackRock's buying, people throw around Vanguard's buying, all these massive hedge funds are buying. The reality of it is they're not buying. They're buying for their clients. It's not like so BlackRock was making a massive bag of 700,000 Bitcoin. They're just on the horn with their clients. The clients say buy, they buy it, they hold it for them. So that led me to the narrative that we wouldn't see a massive drawdown because smart money is in here for 20 years. They're not like retail where they're just trying to speculate the bull market, buy and sell high and low, right? And getting it wrong every single time. So these people, once we see a 30% drawdown, they're phoning BlackRock, they're phoning their financial advisor and saying, yeah, you know what, Bitcoin is not for me. I can't handle these 30% swings. It's just get me out.
And that can happen. That absolutely can happen, right? Like, and that was what was barring crypto from even being an option because it was so volatile you couldn't keep it on your books as a bank, right? Before. Honestly, I hate this marriage with banks already. Like, it's not even like we're like on our way to the altar, we had our pre-wedding drinks and we're on the way, And it's just, you can tell there's something sour in the air. You can tell there's like a scowl on the bridesmaid's face. The banks don't like crypto. It takes away their power. And
For
that
sure.
is what's so interesting about our time frame is we have all this pandering that banks and it's going to be normalized, but they haven't brought up anything about privacy, and they haven't brought up anything about actively buying Bitcoin in the strategic reserve for the United States. They've only mentioned confiscations, being happy with confiscations and being, worried about the pushback. So it's a very, very interesting time. Oh, and on Polymarket, let's check it out here real quick. This is an interesting concept. So we have a government shutdown right now, obviously, Matty B, as I'm sure you're well aware of. Government shutdown, worth noting in terms of our altcoin bags, that the government shutdown does affect a little bit of the juice that we were looking for out of ETFs. U.S. government shutdown has the SEC
Right.
delaying altcoin ETF approvals. Now, and someone had a good note in here, I can't remember where it is, but if it's very important, it's a very important decision, they can expedite those decisions on the ETFs. I'm kind of doubting that altcoin ETFs are at the top of the list of concerns at the moment being. That's just me. Now, how long do you think this government shutdown is going to be? Because you can actually get involved with this. People betting on a quick resolution only coming in at a 3% likelihood that it's like kind of complete within this week. Now, most of the core, kind of people involved, anyone using Polymarket on this bet, looking at October 15th or later, as a 70% likelihood, right? We're sitting looking at a government shutdown, kind of hilarious. We're hitting all-time highs. How long do you think the government would actually remain shut down? Because there are things that Trump wants to do on the ground. He's sending the National Guard around town, right? And, obviously, I think a good degree of those actions will remain in play. But do you think that they'll try to lock this down until Christmas and then give us a Christmas gift of reopening the government? Or are they going to figure this out in the shorter term?
Be? I think you got to ask yourself, what's the government going to look like when it does reopen? So, where it gets dark, kind of, and to me it's a little more light, is that, if the government shuts down and they realize how redundant 60% of the positions actually are, and we know how redundant government workers are. They could take a look at the Fed, 200 PhDs, and they can't get anything right. So my take is when it finally does come back, it comes back differently with maybe 50% of them never coming back. Yeah. And then kind of good riddance to that.
Well, you're mentioning also government employees as a big number. That was a big number of our economic growth over the past 2 years here in the United States. That was actually part of the data set the Fed, the Treasury were using to show a strong and resilient economy, right? Remember Janet Yellen saying that. And, through the kind of the end of the Biden presidency, a vast majority of those jobs that the Federal Reserve, the Treasury made decisions based on were actually federal workers. So,
right.
And there's a certain time frame. I think it's like, I don't know how many days it is, but Trump can reach a point where the government's been shut down for so long that he actually can fire a lot more people than he can right now in this current shutdown.
I think that's the play.
Yeah. I mean, that might be the play. Keep it locked down, and then you reach that technical availability to let go of millions of government workers. I mean, it's a crazy possibility, but I mean, we've seen crazier things happen in this world.
Do you know who's working and who's not? So emergency services are still working, right? The infrastructure,
emergency
of safety,
services,
so to speak. So who is gone?
I know the SEC shut down a lot of the administrative type. I'm pretty darn sure that most of the active forces stay at it. It looks like TSA is working unpaid, DCA and PRAE. There's a large amount that are working and not getting paid, right, with the government shutdown. So
how does that work? As a government worker, they spend their whole life not working, getting paid, but when they're not working but getting paid. So now that they're working and not getting paid, it goes right against their whole reason for getting a government job. I find that hard to believe that they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's got to be aggravating when you're just a person that's trying to make a living for your family, and the government gets in an argument and finds a way to lock each other up on the floor, and then essentially you have a shutdown. It is what it is. It's what's happening right now, but I'm not. This is where it's such a philosophical, because over the course of the next month, if it stays shut down, man, are we going to hear some bad stories, right? We're going to hear some sad stories. We're going to hear people aggravated about it. This is, yeah, and I know DCA and Praise is going to bring up a good point. They're going to get paid back. But if you're paycheck to paycheck person, it's going to hurt. That's kind of the pain. And a lot of people are paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean?
So they get it all reimbursed. If they're off for a month, they get like a month and a half check.
Yeah, when they reopen, they get reimbursed and stuff. But for the time being, it's shut down, and it's like the political partisanship in America. And I'm sure is Canada still kind of like whatever's whatever, and you guys just got this new guy, nobody really cares.
Up here in Canadistan, it's basically a cooked country. So it's falling apart faster than you could ever imagine. You wouldn't know it if you just go and take the temperature of your, typical Walmarting, but it's going down so fast. I was just about to ask you, because even though we're so close, Canada and the United States, what's the temperature of digital ID there? Because it's coming up so fast here in the Commonwealth countries, which Canada belongs to, with the UK and Australia already in there. Is it what's the temperature like down there, or is it even a thing?
Digital ID, CBDCs are still definitely a topic. They're not a widely discussed topic by any means. And from a law perspective, we've had a couple states actually make CBDCs illegal. They included like surveillance, things of that nature, ways to shut down payments. So it's really a setup where it's going to be USDC, in my opinion. I've seen USDC, the company Circle, finding a lot of preferential treatment at a regulatory level, and I think that's going to kind of land them into the spot of what we fear and talk about as a CBDC. It's probably end up going to be Circle. The Treasury Secretary here, Scott Bessent, he's like, Scott Bessent is, right? He worked for Jorge Oros, right, in the 80s. He like crushed the UK dollar. He saw like one little weakness in real estate, and he just now he's the Treasury Secretary. And he is seeing, he's basically foaming at the mouth for what stable coins can do to buy US debt, right? And extend the lifespan of the US dollar. So it's very weird. I think that what we're going to end up with is they're going to say that USDC is private and blah, 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 blah. But there's going to be a backdoor. I think there's going to be a backdoor. That's kind of my opinion of it. They're going to sell us this idea, this illusion of freedom still, so that the Second Amendment doesn't have to step in to ensure that, right? But I feel that's part of my job, is to just make that clear to people what's going on right now, because the political atmosphere is going to shift. It's shifting hard right out here in America right now, but there will be a time where the pendulum comes back. And who knows where they're going to take this? I mean, we're seeing government interest. We're seeing the nationalization of companies. We're going to see the nationalization of strategy. That's something I think is coming. We're going to see government interest in strategy. And they're doing all of these things because of the loss of trust in the dollar. Like, governments are here to enforce a dollar, be it by violence or trade sanctions, whatever it may be. So it's at a pretty critical tipping point right now, man. It's a crazy time to be alive. The news is crazy every day, but I'm locked into crypto. And I'm excited about it, because as things change, that's where that great opportunity comes. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, we had a couple of grace years. It felt like 2023, 24. The WEF snake kind of went back into the jungle and regrouped, and we kind of felt like the coast was clear. But it's definitely, the snake's back out, and it's testing the grounds to see how much people will acquiesce to whatever it says.
Oh, absolutely. It's testing, and the censorship is back.
Yeah,
we had a season where we ran free reign across YouTube, and still got, and you were there for it. We actually talked about it as it was happening, me and you.
we're
Me
celebrating.
and you definitely push the envelope on our shows. There's no denying this,
Yeah.
right? The censorship is back. The control is back. Palantir is nationalized. An AI aggregated control system that takes your biometric data and then makes decisions of your financial capabilities based on that data is a likely reality in the next 10 years from where we're going right now. It's
Well, geez,
unfortunate.
I say, unfortunately, in a year, I think if we're doing this, we will be with those band-aids on our mouth, like, trying to talk, but can't say these words, because really, what do we have left? We have X. That's it. But
Right. It's very consolidated where we can speak right now. That is a great point, Matt. They've whittled it down to a very small,
but not for long, because the small concentric circle of power and money that rules over everybody there's a lot of vulnerable points to Elon Musk, right? So it's not him as an individual. Most men, most dads will die for what they believe in. But when the power start pushing, he has basically 11 vulnerable points, and that's his kids, right? So do all you want. You'll know this as a dad. Do all you want to me. Do your worst. And then they say, well, we'll let you go, but, I'd hate for something to happen to your kids. And once that pressure is applied, I think you're going to see X slowly put in the censorship. And it's already happening a little bit. God forbid you talk about Jews or Israel on X, you'll get a quick censoring, right?
Hold on. We're good. Oh, where's the... Do not come shut us down, overlords. Oh my God. So yeah. Matty B.
The pressure points are the 11 kids, right? So it's like they would have to do something, no matter, do their worst to Drew, you'll take it. Threaten your kids, and now it's okay. Well, I gotta rethink this scenario because I don't want anything bad to happen out because of me. Right. So this is the pressure that gets applied. So that's why I think even in a year, X will look completely different.
Well, and this is why like Bitcoin is, as we see these controls, it's like Bitcoin is creating this black hole effect where the hope is in Bitcoin, the value in being able to store it ourselves to become our own banks. And this is why at a grassroots movement, not just the ETFs get involved. This is a great stat, and something that makes me really happy is like over 60, I think it's like even in the 70% of all Bitcoin is held by private holders, not by these ETFs or these newbies, right? So, if we can continue to just push for people to become their own banks, like we have a great, like I love being sponsored by Arculus, literally. Like it is the best thing that I feel like I can do with my voice is to get people to become their own banks. The worst move that a government could see in terms of retaining control is seeing capital flight and people going to Bitcoin, becoming their own bank. You know what I mean? There's an immense power. There's a big reason why banks fought against us for so darn long, and now they're seeming to integrate with it. And we did have some weird integrations on an altcoin here. I'll cover this as well. This Denari coming out, one-to-one back tokenized stocks. And this is where kind of the fun in finding these random small little plays and how we're being plugged into the existing system. Because a major problem, Matty B, that I wanted to make very, very clear on XRP is that, to replace the existing banking infrastructure is absolutely impossible without physical involvement. So when you talk about XRP flipping the switch, taking over the banking infrastructure, taking over Swift, I just really think that's not going to be the reality. But seeing little projects that are, kind of integrating to what the system is, they kind of pique my interest in, they kind of pique my interest. I like this comment too. All this talk with is the Bitcoin bull run over or not? No, I'm thinking, I said at the beginning of the show, Gustavo, 150. Let's ask you this though, Piano Matty B, where do you think we do top out, right? Where do you think the actual top of Bitcoin is for this cycle?
Well, I actually planned this out today because I've been wondering where we are in the bull run, just because it's been so almost boring that I like forgot.
Yeah.
Are we near the end? So I plotted it out here on the daily chart. The average bull run is 480 days. So this is the daily chart. I'm going to show this yellow arrow is 480 days, and that was August 12th. Right, 2021 was 548 days. So if we were as long as the last bull run, which November 10th, 2021, that would take us to October 20th. Now, what's the date today? That 7th? That's
7 is getting pretty close.
That's 2 weeks away.
It's getting pretty
now,
close.
if we do the numbers, so we have 2012, 367 days, 2016, 526, 2020, 548, slightly longer, so I mean, it would make sense if this bull run was slightly longer too. Doesn't mean it has to, just because the last three got longer. But if we wanted to, so it was 20 days longer 2021 bull run than 2017. So let's just add another 20 days to 548 and 21. What does that put us at? November 11th?
It puts us around November, I believe. Yeah. I do believe it puts us
11th.
around November.
And now when you think about the last peaks of the three, so 2012, November 30th, 2016, December 17th, and 2020, November 10th. So it all kind of, comes to a finale in November, besides 2016 and December. So we're pretty close. We got 30 days, so which also makes me think that this little dump we're seeing here, it probably will get bought up pretty quick, because we don't really have the time to go and test all these levels and break them and go down and consolidate down at an old support. We kind of need to get there in the next 30 days. That being said, if we are in a historical cycle where we see a peak and a blow off top,
Right.
like if we stick on this 4-hour chart for one last second, you can see the 38.2% fib right here, which is basically what happens to every healthy pullback. You have a pump, you pull back to 38.2%. It's just textbook chart behavior. We haven't really hit it. We've thrown a couple wicks down. One where the lowest was 128. The 38.2% fib is 120.3. So it's $500 away. It's close, but it's also confluent to this channel of ascension. You can see up there. It would be perfectly at the support of this channel of ascension. And it goes way back, if you can see here.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's how long that channel of ascension goes. And we've been respecting it the whole time, right? So even on the downside, we've respected it. Fell out of it for a bit, and now we're back. So, I mean, at this 38.2% fib, we don't want to break it. We don't want to break it. We want to get that bounce and maybe V-shape it all the way back. Because one thing I noticed yesterday, man, the sentiment, my X feed was just nothing but bullish
Right.
sentiment from all businesses, all influencers, everything just bullish. It has a 3% dump. Urge. Just like you don't hear anything, right?
It's true, man. It is kind of wild. And right now we're trying to find a bid here from like 121K. Really not worried about the structure of the bull market at all from where we sit right now, but I am, keeping a close eye on alts, their performance to Bitcoin. And honestly, I was thinking about this morning. I'm excited for boring price action on Bitcoin to just keep buying Bitcoin. All right.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. And, from what me and you cover on shows, if we do end up 10 years from now under that automated system of, hey, this guy said this 10 years ago. 1 year. God, geez. Okay. Hopefully we got longer than that. But, this is where Bitcoin matters so much to me, because I'll still be able to transact, right? Gold dealers still take Bitcoin. It's as long as there's a market for it, I can access. We're good to go. So, been a hell of a day.
Hold on.
What's that?
One little dark turn, and then I swear to God, this is the last dark moment. I'll talk about this. It goes back to Bitcoin being the last bastion of financial freedom. So we are assuming that you can take that Bitcoin and put it into a mainstream vehicle. Purchase something either from maybe your legacy bank account or maybe from an exchange. Because up here in Canada, I use Bull Bitcoin, which can pay bills, right? It's basically a bank. Now, it will perform like that until it's mandated by our cuck liberal government to put a digital ID. I'm sure I'll get the email. Unfortunately, if you still want to use our services, we are mandated by the government to ensure you have a digital ID. And once that happens, some of those off ramps, which you and I have been talking about for years, these off ramps, right?
Yeah.
Once they get closed, the easiest way to close it is to just set up a digital ID interference. You can no longer use this exchange. So you and I may be trapped in our cold storage, only going back to like chapter 1, peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
That'll be it.
That is a possibility. That's a possibility. That's why I got to stay diversified. You know what I mean? Well, I got to stay diversified. But right now in this season, I'm definitely allocated to Bitcoin. And the regulatory framework isn't so scary right now. It can just change pretty quickly. It can definitely change pretty quickly. Well, Matty B, absolutely loved having you on the show with me today. We talked about a lot of kind of crazy concepts, but I felt like it was healthy. We talked about some stuff that was so spicy. They kicked me off the internet there for a minute, but
that's right.
We fought back on
the
show. Well, and what happened when I got zapped out of did it just turn black or something?
Well, you started like glitching like 2011 internet. Kind of like your best case 280p. We used to watch videos at 280p for 4 hours on 9/11.
Oh Lord. Well, Matty B, thank you very much for joining me on the show today, and shout out to everybody out there. I know it might be scary, this pullback. What we have to watch for is, does the token still have an intrinsic use case? Does it still matter? Is it still relevant? Is there a reason to hold it? That's what I look at in my portfolio. Make sure to do the same. We're approaching some pretty chaotic times over the next few months. Multiple rate cuts planned. Gold is collapsing up. S&P, new all-time highs every single day. This is the time to lock in. But then we make money quickly in this market. We better be able to protect it quicker. So make sure to pick yourself up an Arculus cold storage wallet here, and I will just leave you with this message. I'll see you guys very.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.